Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are having a good Wednesday. It's December 23rd. And today we're going to be talking about our very major Christmas winter storm. It's going to be a very strong storm for the east. And it's going to be bringing very above average temperatures in front of it, but then a very big cool down for Christmas Day on the back side of it for many areas. And we're going to be talking about that in today's video. So let's get started. I'm sorry there has not been any uploads recently. I'm planning on posting really every day since 2021 starts. So yeah, I'm planning on getting a better screen recorder also. I'm just probably gonna get that within the next week. But yeah, so let's get started. So this is the NAM model. We're gonna be looking at our very strong Christmas week storm. So right now we have snow for areas of Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Minnesota. Not very heavy, but this is blowing snow. And we actually do have blizzard warnings out for this. We have blizzard warnings out for areas in northeastern Nebraska, northwestern Iowa, eastern South Dakota, eastern North Dakota, and a good chunk of Minnesota. And we have storm warnings in this pink color for areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, all the way down into almost the Omaha area. I'm not sure if that is Omaha or not. So very interesting. Not extremely high snowfall totals with this. It's very powdery snow in some areas with blowing snow, and that's going to create blizzard conditions for areas of South Dakota, Nebraska, North Dakota, Minnesota, and northwestern Iowa. So that's what we have going on right now. We do not really have any severe weather ongoing right now, but as we go into the afternoon, once the storm system starts to strengthen as it moves into Wisconsin, it's going to start to bring snow to areas like Minneapolis and St. Cloud. And then that's going to move east. There's a little bit of snow on the backside for areas like Omaha and Des Moines, maybe. And we can see we have a potential for severe weather and strong thunderstorms in Louisiana and the deep south as this front progresses and strengthens. And you can see actually a pretty large damaging wind threat for areas of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. And on the backside, we do have some snow mixing in areas like Michigan and Wisconsin, maybe northern Illinois. Not really the Chicago area as much, though. And now, with this storm system, we do actually have a chance of snow in the south on Christmas Eve. So you can see, this is Thursday morning. We start to have a little bit of snow trying to mix in right as this front makes it through Nashville. That's when snow will start to try to mix in the backside of this. And then by Thursday, kind of early afternoon, we have snow mixing in areas in eastern Kentucky and central Ohio. Not really heavy snow, and some of it won't accumulate as temperatures will still be quite warm, and the ground will be also warm. And you can see we have the mixing of snow. We have more cold air as the storm system progresses further east, and you can see we have a new low form in the Carolinas, pretty much right around the East Coast. And that's going to bring more precipitation, and we're also going to have more cold air to work with as we go into PA and Ohio. And so we could actually see several inches of snow in areas like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Ohio. As you can see, actually some decent snowfall in that area. And that moves northeast, and very above average temperatures Christmas morning for the northeast, though. Almost 30 degrees above average in some areas, which we're going to be talking about that in a second. And we also, the models have been trending towards this. There's also a slight chance of snow flurries as far south as northeastern Alabama and northwestern Georgia. And then this front moves northeast. And also on Christmas Eve, we do have a a pretty large severe weather chance for areas of the Carolinas into Virginia, which we're going to be talking about that at the end of the video. And that low moves further northeast, and then it'll clear out it'll clear out by Saturday afternoon. Just maybe some lake effect in the backside of this for areas in New York, northern PA, and northeastern Ohio. And then total snowfall with this Christmas storm system is actually going to be pretty high in some areas. We can see a good area or a good swath of 2 to 4 inches in areas of South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And you can see in the east again, we have some maybe lake effect for areas of Indiana and Michigan. And we're gonna once we have our second low form along the cold front in the east and that strengthens, we're gonna have a second pretty large snowfall chance for areas like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Columbus. Not as much for Columbus as it is for Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We can see West Virginia also getting a good amount of snow with this. So yes, and then we look at past model runs with the NAM. You can see, if we got a little bit more, you can see it's actually quite similar. As the 12Z, the 6Z is quite similar to the 12Z. And yes, we do have blizzard warnings though, which actually these blizzard warnings are taking up a pretty large area of the Midwest. And real quick, we're going to look at temperatures. So we can see Christmas Eve. Actually, today and the Christmas Eve, we're going to have much above average temperatures for areas in the Midwest, going into the Northeast. Christmas morning, look at this. We have temperatures around 28 to 30 degrees above average for areas of Quebec all the way down to the Northeast. And below, on the backside of this, we have below average temperatures, actually very cold Arctic air going all the way down into Florida on the backside of this front. And actual temperatures with this Friday morning, negatives in single digits make it go all the way down into central Illinois and northern Missouri. Negatives going all the way out into northern Iowa and northwestern Wisconsin. So very cold air and below freezing temperatures on Christmas morning, making it all the way down to almost the Gulf Coast. So very cold. And then high temperatures on Friday or afternoon temperatures. High temperatures will likely not make it out of the teens for some areas in the Midwest, and will not make it out of the 30s as far south as central Alabama and central Georgia. So this is going to be the coldest Christmas for areas of the east in a pretty long time. Now, areas of the Northeast, though, could actually have a pretty warm Christmas, especially areas in New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, all the way up into Maine, as the front will not push through by Christmas. But then as Saturday comes, that's when the cold front will push through and the cold comes in. And we do have potential another storm system after this. This is the GFS here. We can see some snow mixing in the south. And we go out to Monday. We have a second storm system into the country on Friday in the northwest. Then Saturday that progresses further east. And then by Sunday night and the early Monday morning, we have a second, a lot weaker storm system now. It is fairly organized, in my opinion, but it's very weak. We can see some weak or light to moderate snow for areas in Michigan, Wisconsin, as this moves further east. But a very weak storm system overall. But there is some colder air on the backside of this, so we could actually have some snow for some areas. It's not very heavy snowfall with this though, and we will have another update on this weekend, probably Sunday. And this could be big, but this is around the last, or pretty much the last days of the year, 2020. That could be a pretty big snowstorm if this happens. Let's see if the GFS is actually thinking that this will happen. All right, so this was yesterday's afternoon model run at 18Z. We could see a very weak storm system bringing some snow and sleet into areas of Illinois, Indiana, and the Midwest, pretty much. Not very strong though. Then the GFS is trending towards a much stronger system with a low pressure and then 990s in Kansas. So that's actually pretty big. If this does happen, this will be very big. Now, I do think we're going to see a storm system around December 30th. Now, we're going to have to see what actually happens with this, as this will likely change. We could be seeing a potentially big winter storm for some areas, which we're going to look at that again Sunday and see what has changed. We're going to look at some more models with that. But now let's check on the severe weather. So today we have a slight risk from the Storm Prediction Center for areas of southern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, and the western Florida Panhandle. And we do have a 5% for tornadoes in that slight risk area. Only a 5 hail, so we're really there's not a large hail threat today. Just a 5% hail in eastern Texas and western Louisiana. So tornado and winds are the big threats today. And tomorrow, I think tomorrow could be a bigger day. We have a slight risk for areas in northeastern South Carolina, eastern North Carolina, and southeastern Virginia, with a marginal risk taking up a good amount of Florida. almost all of Florida. And we do have a 5% torr once again. And no hail threat. Hail is not going to be really big at all tomorrow. So wind and tornado, which is the wind is normally the biggest threat in the winter. So yeah, let's take a look at the HRR model for today. So you can see the HRR has a line of thunderstorms going all the way from Louisiana. It starts in eastern Texas, going all the way in Louisiana and then Mississippi and Alabama. Maybe some supercells firing up in southwestern Louisiana and southern Louisiana and southern Mississippi. So we'll have to see. And the HRR, you can see it even has some snow mixing in the backside in Kentucky and maybe even northern Tennessee and Indiana. So that's what we have going on today. We're not going to be going. Let's look at Cape real quick for today. We're going to look at ML Cape. You can see we don't have a whole lot of Cape. We have most of the Capes in eastern Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas. But we actually have Cape of almost 1,000 to 2,000 in eastern Texas. That's ML, so that's pretty good for this time of year. And then atmosphere the east, we do not have any really much Cape. We actually have some pretty low values of Cape, but we do have some Cape to work with in southern Alabama and the western Florida Panhandle. And then for tomorrow, we're going to be looking at a different model. You can see this is tomorrow afternoon. This is Christmas Eve. You can see we have our snow showers and our snow mixing in the backside of this all the way down to North Georgia. And actually some decently heavy snow in areas of Kentucky, West Virginia, and Ohio. We can see we have potentially what could be some supercells coming into North Carolina and eastern South Carolina. Those could have a tornado threat with them. You can see that forms into a pretty strong line of storms as it moves further east. Even some damaging winds going all the way up into southern Delaware. And then let's start looking at ingredients for tomorrow. So let's look at moisture. Tomorrow afternoon, we have pretty good dew points for this time of year in front of our front. We have much drier behind the front, of course. But in front of this, we have dew points in the 60s in this blue color, all the way into central North Carolina. So a decent amount of moisture to work with as this front moves further east. We actually have dew points almost picking up a 70 in extreme eastern North Carolina. So that's pretty good this time of year. And then let's look at some other things. So let's look at ML Cape for tomorrow. Let's see what we have to work with. So we don't have a whole lot of Cape tomorrow. We only have around 1,000 at peak in eastern North Carolina, southeastern North Carolina. But we do have an okay amount of Cape. And this will be enough to support some severe weather. This could limit it if we do not have enough and if we have too much convection blowing up, which will waste some of the energy. I do think tomorrow will be interesting for sure. So yeah, that's Cape. Let's look at bulk shear now, surface to 500. So bulk shear tomorrow is going to be very high. I mean, you can see where we actually have severe weather happening. It's only around 50 knots, 50 to 60 knots. And also, let's just take a look at our jet. Let's go with the 500 millibar winds. But we have 500 millibar winds of 60 to 70 knots. That is very good. And look at this. Very, very strong winds. Almost 130 knots in areas of Alabama and Georgia. So very, very strong jet stream with this. And then the last thing we're going to be looking at is storm relative helicity, 0 to 3 kilometers. Before we take some soundings. You can see we do have really good helicity tomorrow of almost 600 in some areas. Now we're going to take some soundings in front of some storms. That is what I like to do. So actually, we're going to get. I'll just use this. Take some soundings in eastern North Carolina. I'll take some soundings in northeastern South Carolina first and see what we can get. So this is tomorrow afternoon. All right, so this is a torr sounding, but don't really listen to that possible hazard type. Let's look at what we actually have going on here. So we have ML Cape of around 491. That is quite low. But if we have enough ingredients and enough ingredients of other things, we could actually that would be able to work out. We do not have very much capping going on. Now we do not have really steep lapse rates with this, which that's going to be contributing to our fairly low hail threat, and we do not have a lot of energy. or we do have a lot of energy, but not a lot of instability, really. And we do have turning of the winds. So that is overall a decent sign to support some tornadoes, but we do have low instability. You can see further north in the eastern North Carolina, low cape, and actually it's capped. So let's take some sightings elsewhere. Let's take some sightings in central North Carolina, kind of outside our severe threat. Pretty lower cape, not extremely capped. We do actually have some decent shear, not really turning very good though. So we'll have to see what this does tomorrow. I do think tomorrow will be worse than today, but that could always change if we do not have enough instability going on tomorrow, because that could happen. But I do think tomorrow could be bigger than today for severe weather. And yeah, so I hope you guys all have a good Christmas, and I'll be back after Christmas.